Hello and welcome. We're here at the Hub in Westminster and I'm joined by Ian Chammings, Director of FitMixPro. How are you doing, Ian?
Hiya, all right, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. So FitMixPro, you gained investment on the Dragon's Den from Deborah Meaden and Theo Pathetis.
That's right.
We're here to talk about that investment. So firstly, before we get onto that side of things, perhaps explain to us what FitMixPro is and what it does.
Well, it's a music download site, but purely for aerobics instructors and professional fitness. And the idea is that people want to make a mix, but it needs to be a continuous mix for their classes. Previously, they only had the option of 3 or 4 CDs from a couple of set companies. So what we do is we upload all the tracks that are in the charts and dance tracks and everything really. And so they can choose the tracks that they want. It then gets mixed seamlessly together for them, and then they download it and then use that in their classes.
Okay, cool. So is that just, I mean, surely that can get rolled out towards anybody who likes to run or likes to do exercise?
Well, yes and no. I mean, if they hold there's a certain license that they need to use it in public, and we're allowed to sell it to those people. And one of the issues that we've had launching this business was the licensing side of it. And actually, we're very limited to just selling it to aerobics instructors.
Oh,
so
right,
that's
okay.
why it came out. But at the same time, it seems to be the most useful service for them, for that job.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did that idea come about? Were you an aerobics instructor or?
No, well, we started trying to sell it to absolutely everybody.
Yeah.
And for one reason or another, we were up against the piracy. People were downloading it for free anyway.
Yeah.
And it just didn't stick at all. So, but at the same time, we had a lot of emails from aerobics instructors and fitness professionals saying, look, if you just add these few functions to it, we'll be able to use this and it'll be fantastic. And so I was thinking, well, it's just, it's a niche thing. Why? Is there any point? Is it going to be big enough? It turns out, well, yes, it is. But we're very grateful because those are the people that it's now aimed at.
Absolutely.
So it works well now.
That's interesting. So you just kind of got that feedback without pushing for it.
I didn't have a clue about the industry, the fitness industry at all. And because it was on telly, then you get emails in all sorts, and it was quite a regular thing saying, look, if you just tweak it so that we can make sure that it's in a certain set format, then it would be perfect for it.
So you got that from being on Dragon's Den?
Absolutely.
That feedback? That was interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think that's probably the most you've got out of Dragon's Den?
Oh no, there's all sorts. I mean, when we first went to Dragon's Den, I had the technology, but when I was talking to the record labels, they just didn't take me seriously. We had a few initial discussions, and they said, that's a good idea, and that's as far as it got.
Right.
And then when I went on to the Den, the next day, I had a phone call from one of the guys in one of the labels saying, look, Ian, I've had 7 text messages last night saying we need to get your service in with our music, and that's how it kick-started. But it needed that exposure to begin with, because otherwise we had nothing to sell. We had this lovely mixing system, but none of the music that people wanted.
So you earmark the exposure that you got as a fundamental reason that your business went forward?
Yeah, I mean, it would have stopped if it wasn't for Dragon's Den. I'd be back at the desk job. I wouldn't be able to do that.
That's very interesting. And so, how did you gained investment? I mean, do you think you would have got that response if you had failed to get investment?
No, I mean, I was at the stage where I was talking to them, and they were saying, well, that's a good idea. Maybe get it up and running first. But it's a catch-22 situation because it didn't have the music to sell, so we couldn't get established.
Right, yeah. So it's a question of supply and demand.
Exactly. I mean, because we did have a few smaller record labels. There's some great little dance labels that were really supportive, but of course that wasn't enough content to get enough people involved. It was more niche into quite underground dance music, which isn't everyone's cup of tea. So it did need to get the majors on board before it was going to be successful.
Well, you did get the majors on board. Deborah and Theo both saw something in the product that they felt they could work with. What is it that they saw that the record labels that you went to, or the music industry people that you went to previously turned you down? What is it that they saw that the music people didn't?
That's a good question, isn't it? The record labels, they saw it and they saw it working, and I think they probably had a lot of startups, things like Spotify, that kind of thing, come to them because that was around the time that things were getting digitised and getting online, and it might just be that there were just so many that it was hard to say, right, well, we'll actually, because it does take some investment from their side to get the catalogue set up ready for us to use as well and put through our system. So, maybe at the point where we had Theo and Deborah on board, then at that point it's more
you get a bit of kudos. Yeah. So it was a question of perhaps standing out, almost.
Well, we stood out because nobody else could do the mixing system anyway. But I think they realised then that with Theo and Deborah on board, they weren't going to let it die. Really, they knew that there was some financial oomph behind it, and also the PR that they can bring as well.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
And just the expertise.
Yeah. So what has specifically Deborah? What has she given you by way of anything from investment other than capital? What was Deborah?
Well, she's the person that I go to for PR because I trained as an engineer and then I did it a couple of years as a patent attorney, and that's nothing to do with PR, and I'm terrible at it. And so sometimes I need some advice on how to get out to the markets, and that's of course where she comes in. So she's great at that.
So is she good at opening doors, or does she?
Yes, I mean, so for example, once we were on TV, we managed to get hold of one of the record labels and they both actually went to see them with me, and that was through somebody that she knew, and once you've got her on board, then people start to pay more attention. Really. So certainly PR as well.
So she went with you on one of the meetings.
So
it's quite an active role.
It's great because they're there when you need them.
Yeah.
So they're not always on your shoulder going, what's going on and all this, but we stay up to date.
Do they almost act as mentors then as well?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, so Theo's given me some office space. When I moved up to London, it was either, look, should we rent some space, or then Theo butted in and said, hold on a minute, don't spend any money.
Yeah.
I've got some spare space in his office.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm there every now and then, and it's quite useful. Started going mad working from home. So,
They sound like really good parents.
They're lovely. They are lovely. Although Theo's not shy in coming forward if you see something on the website that might need changing.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Does that happen often?
Not that often, because we pay attention when he says make some changes. So we do, and it's great that every now and then he'll say, "Let Ian come and have a word," and he'll go through each of the points, and actually all the way through the site. And his attention to detail is just phenomenal, and that's it. And so it's great to have that.
So do Deborah and Theo, do they have input into the future of the company and the direction it should be taking?
Yeah, they do. Every now and then we'll get to a fork, and I'll have the information about what's going on in the fitness music side of things, and or where the software is, and they'll help. If I'm wondering which way to go, then they're there to ask the question. They do provide input from that point of view. Yeah.
So what is the future then of FitMixPro?
Well, at the moment, we've just started talking to people in Europe to get the products out to there, because we're still the only company that can do this mixing system with the original music from the major labels. So we're just rolling that out now across Europe, because there's all sorts of licensing issues involved. But as we seem to have hit a roll at the moment. So September and January are usually peaks with the fitness music, because January especially, because people think, right, I really need to get to the gym.
Yeah.
So it's at this point now where we should be having a bit of a lull, but it seems to be getting better each month since September, and I think that's because it's like we've had a critical mass of people, and I think we're getting feedback from them, and they're passing it
right.
on. So that's doing well. So this is the next stage, is Europe, certainly.
It's interesting that you're gaining momentum through what sounds like word of mouth.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're always trying with different forms of PR with the Register of Exercise Professionals and all sorts of things like that, and also Google AdWords. It's simple but effective. But yes, we do ask for feedback, positive or negative, and it's so great to see the emails that come back saying, thank you, where have you been? If only you were here a long time ago.
Yeah,
it was great. But they do say we'll recommend you to our friends, so that's great. So.
Of course, this is a business that really could only exist on the internet and in the modern digitalised world. How difficult is it running an internet business that's largely based on the internet?
For the biggest difficulty is the licensing, because especially with IP and territories, then there's a big clash really. And the only reason why we can get into Europe now is because there's a case right up at the European Court of Justice about whether or not certain licensing bodies need to compete. It's pretty in depth, but it's all that's the limiting factor. But there are a lot of advantages. Like I can do this from anywhere, and the overheads are minimal. So that's really useful.
Okay.
I'd say that if anything, when we started, we were probably 5 years too early, because at the time more people were getting it illegally than legally. It's probably still the case now. But also, I forgot what I was going to say. But also the record labels had digital rights management, which meant that people could legitimately buy the music, but if they had a different MP3 player to the one that was specified, they wouldn't be allowed to use it, so it was a nightmare.
So just to end on then, do you have a tip for anybody thinking or just starting out in internet business?
I think it's the same with any business really. Just do your research, and then if you're really pessimistic about it, and be really harsh with yourself on the figures, convince yourself, be honest with yourself, and then when it comes to investors or comes to anybody that you're talking to, then you'll know, you'll have good grounding, and you won't be wasting your own time if it was something that wasn't going to take on. Yeah. Then the other advice would, of course, be just get on with it and do it, because there's a lot of companies, a lot of people saying, yeah, I've got this idea. It's like, well, just get on with it. Do it. Yeah.
Okay, so don't sit on your laurels, just do it.
Yeah, get on.
Brilliant advice. Okay, well, thanks very much for joining us, Ian.
No, thanks very much.
Okay.